Hey you, yeah, you, the one trying to make a video game. I've got someone here that can help you, and that someone is Intel, which is not a someone, it's a company. But this company, they are going to help you as if they were a somebody and a someone and also a something. Check out software.intel.com/gamedev to find out how Intel is making sure all the innovation in gaming continues to happen on the PC as part of the Intel Game Dev program. Again, that URL is software.intel.com/gamedev. Sign up and start something new. It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. It's the podcast where Mike annoys Jeffrey Michael Grubb on a weekly basis. How's that going for you, Mike?
I forgot your middle name is Michael. It's funny.
Yeah. Is your middle name Jeffrey?
No, thank God.
You should change it. To Jeffrey.
No, I will not do that.
This is the podcast where we decide everything in the world of games so you don't have to think for yourself. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is Mike Minotti.
Hey,
established that pretty firmly.
Yeah, it's me.
Yay! In today's episode, we're going to go over some news. We got some games. I think the news has some pretty meaty topics, so no second topic this week. Also, I'm very tired. Mike also called himself Sleepy Mikey right before we started.
Well, I'm always sleepy at this time of the day, though.
Yeah, great. I don't have your audio in the video. I can fix that real quick. Mike, why don't you do something funny? Entertain these people for once.
Well, I thought you said they don't have my audio or video.
Well, no, I definitely have your video, and I have your audio on the podcast, the audio version.
Man, you sure are stupid, Jeff. No wonder that Firefall guy doesn't like you.
So that's been a good fun time this week. Very, very grumpy with me. All right, let's do this stuff first.
Isn't it your job to know about the development history of Firefall?
That people are so right that I should know everything about this game that doesn't exist anymore.
Also, I think you did know that anyways, and it was really more of a matter of, his hypothetical situation about how that game would have been a success if, they didn't rip it from him.
Yeah, and I'm like, homie, I wrote the news story when it happened. Like, they ripped it away from you. We're talking about this. People aren't going to know, but I don't know. The guy that made Firefall, which was a big game that was supposed to be like the WoW with guns or whatever, he got mad at me because I made fun of him on Twitter. And then, they're like, you know that game would have been fine if they wouldn't have taken it away from me. And I'm like, dude, you actually just spent money faster than you could make it. And that's why they took it away from you. This is what we're doing now. You can get more from me and Mike at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with us, you can email the podcast at games+podcast@VentureBeat.com. You can also get us on Twitter at GamesBeat or at GBDecides. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or any number of other sources, you can subscribe to the audio version of this show. It's on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, all the places where pods are caught. Finally, if you like what you're hearing, which is just implausible, I think, at this point, you could rate us on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out. All right, Mike. So other than I can't even remember his name right now. Mark Kern.
Kern. It sounds like Mark Cerny, but it's Mark Kern. Yeah.
Mark Kearney. Okay, I was
Cerny is someone else. This is just Kern.
Okay,
he was a writer.
Just Kern. Okay.
Just Kern. He was a writer on World of Warcraft Vanilla, and then he left 6 months after that launch. Oh, he worked on some other Blizzard games.
So he's the guy that made World of Warcraft such a success, right?
No, he just was a writer. I mean, I'm sure he helped. I don't want to diminish his, accomplishment or whatever, but he did not make World of Warcraft.
Sounds like you're diminishing his contributions.
I mean, there's a zillion MMOs that have come out from the people who made World of Warcraft. WildStar was the same exact thing.
Isn't it your job to know this stuff, though?
Yeah, right. Well, I literally know it. But yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, we should get into other topics instead of making this show all about that this week. We've been playing some games. So what have you been up to? Hey, speaking of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I stopped playing a lot of World of Warcraft these days, man. I've actually been playing a decent amount less of Hearthstone. Just kind of this expansion. I've been playing a ton of World of Warcraft. But it's been fun,
Yeah.
They've kind of been introducing a lot of content leading up to this next expansion launch. there's these new kind of, they're called allied races, like, like in an MMO, there's all different races you can play as. And normally they'll, like, every other expansion, they maybe will introduce one or two. What they're doing in this one is they're introducing a lot more, but they're kind of like variations on races that have already exist. So instead of like Tauren, it's the High Mountain Tauren. They have antlers, so things like that. Like, they're not entirely unique, but they are from different areas. They look different. They have their own backstories, and the kind of neat thing about them is you have to unlock them in the game before you can make one of them. So there's kind of this grind and quest progression thing. So it's almost kind of like an achievement in a weird way. And, I like that stuff. Like, oh, cool, I have to actually earn this. There's just a million little things I can do in that game right now to, like there's a mount I want, so every week I go to this old raid and hope that it drops. There's another mount I wanted, so I was doing these quests in this old zone and, again, hoping that it'll drop. I'm leveling up a hunter, Alliance character, so that I can do some things on the Alliance side I can't do on the Horde side. It's just, there's a lot to do. So I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's the game that is still better than anything else at keeping players engaged for long periods of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like every game that is trying to do that these days still feels like it's chasing this same thing as it's always, as always. But I don't know. Have you been getting into anything else? Yeah, I see Celeste still. Yeah, it's the game I'm still playing.
Yeah, I beat the first 7 chapters, then I beat that bonus chapter too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just really, really fun. Liked that a lot. I did some of the B-sides, because I get to get at least 4 of those hearts.
Right.
You can get heart for doing the B-side. And I did like the B-side for the hotel. Did you do that one?
I don't know. I think so, because that's like that's like the 3rd world or 4th world.
Yeah, 3rd or 4th world. Like, it was like one of the hardest things I had done in a game. I thought it was so difficult, and it was kind of awesome.
Really hard. Yes.
It was great.
They don't joke around with those B-sides.
No, but it's because it's like these kind of micro levels, right? Like that are like it's a long level, but it's stitched into all these segments. Like, something's really hard, but you can keep going at it and slowly get better and make progress to the point where you'll eventually get them. Really,
totally. Mm-hmm. And like for people that feel like they aren't, they have all those difficulty options to mess around with, and they can get it too. So a very rewarding game in terms of challenging people and making you feel accomplished, but also very accommodating at the same time. I'm trying to 100% that game right now. Yeah. I'm getting pretty close. So.
Have you been watching any speedruns?
No, because I don't want to feel bad about myself yet. Like I'm still in that zone where I'm like I am still struggling with a lot of these levels for 200 deaths sometimes. So yeah, I don't want to like go and watch these guys just be so good at it quite yet, but I can't wait, because boy, is this game going to be a hell of a speedrun thing.
I've been just watching kind of any percent, so just getting through the first 7 chapters, and it's really neat. They're doing things I don't quite understand, like a lot of like down, like dashing into the ground to like really build this momentum that looks really crazy. Super neat.
Yeah, there's a ton of momentum tricks in the game that, like, once you even start to get a hint at it, it's like, oh wow, there's a lot more going on in the physics system here than the game lets on at first. I've been playing a few other things. I can just kind of run through them. Steep, that Ubisoft Extreme Sports winter game. Yes.
What, were you inspired by Shaun White's Olympic run?
Not quite. I had it going before that, actually, but I mean that helped. They have an Olympic Games like add-on, an expansion, like the road to the Olympics, and it's not like you get to play as any of the main people in the Olympics, but they have these interviews with them like between all of these sort of set up challenges that are like, oh, here's how the fictional character you're playing as got to the Olympics, and here's all the things they had to do, and you get to do that stuff, and that game's pretty good. It's pretty solid. It's also like a reminder of just how like these Ubisoft games stick around for so long that, and they somehow, I don't know, it's some sort of trick that they're doing where they make you think, oh wow, that game's still around, and it must matter. There must be something happening there. That's what happened with like me and Rainbow Six, and there is something happening there. That game just keeps getting better. It's really good. But I think it's something that could work with all their games, because I felt the same thing about Steep, and now I'm enjoying that as well. We'll see if that content like really has anything at the end of it, because I'm still at the progression stage. I don't know if they're going to have any actual Olympic competitions, because it is called Road to the Olympics, so we'll see. But I guess that's why there was no Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games this year, because
Right.
Ubisoft got the license. So
Thank God. Then.
yeah, Ubisoft saved Sega from themselves. Okay, and then Descenders is another one I've been playing. This game is a downhill bicycling, like mountain biking game. Essentially, this is like another.
You're all extreme sports.
I am very. I got my Mountain Dew and my Red Bull and my Monster Energy drink, and I call it the cocktail. And boy,
Whoa.
it really makes my heart want to die. So yeah, but Descenders doesn't. It's a really good game. It's again very physics heavy. Very much. It's like one of these games where it's a 3D downhill game. It's not like Trials where it's 2D, and it's very punishing if you're not going to actually try to take it seriously and try to get very accurate with the sticks. The left stick controls the steering of the bike, but the right stick controls like your body, and you have to sort of twist yourself to do these power slides into turns, because if you don't, you're going to be going way too fast, and you'll carry your momentum right off. And so you have to use this kind of complicated, almost skate-like, EA's skate like control scheme that I find really satisfying. And then the structure of the game itself is set up like Spelunky, where you have these 4 worlds that you need to go through, but you have to start at the beginning each time, and you get 4 lives, basically 4 times that you can bail, and you have to get all the way through to the end. And if you complete bonus objectives along the way, you'll get an extra life, and that'll keep you going a little bit longer. And then it also has like the daily challenge, which is exactly like Spelunky as well. So it's interesting to see that structure of Spelunky applied to something so different. But it really works. It's something that's like, okay, now that I get that, I could see myself going back every day to just at least try the daily challenge. Because you get to just try that once, and it's self-contained, and I like that idea. I wish more games would actually just steal that stuff from Spelunky. Also, Age of Empires Definitive Edition. Mike, did you ever play any Age of Empires?
Yeah, back when I was a kid.
Right.
I had my run with it.
Yeah, this is the game, same thing, 20 years ago, made to run on modern systems. I do think there's some quality of life improvement stuff, mostly in terms of like pathfinding, and just maybe a few UI things. But for the most part, it's the game you're going to remember, and it works well. It is exclusive to the Windows 10 store, and I have had some issues there getting it to actually work with my account, because I have it on one account, and I want to play it on my Windows account. But that might just be a me thing. And then also like trying to play it in full screen. Those universal Windows, platform games can have some issues there. But for the most part, it just works, and it's fine. I don't know. Go ahead.
Is it a little weird? You think that this is the first one, right?
Yes.
Wasn't the sequel just kind of better? Like this, just me remembering as a kid.
So I didn't play a ton of any Age of Empires. I was very much a Civ guy. I liked turn-based. But yes, Age of Empires 2 was definitely better. And you could tell because this game, it just feels like it is this relentless race that is over before you know it if you're losing. And if you're losing, you're just like almost at any point, if you're far enough behind, it's just over. And so it just feels like this... it's not a waste of time. You're still going through all the motions and you're learning stuff, and you can apply it to the next run. But they definitely expand on this stuff in the sequels. And that's kind of what I was going to say, is this feels like more like it's a chance to whet people's appetite for the upcoming new Age of Empires sequel that's coming out.
Right.
So, Bayonetta 2 on the Switch.
It's a good game.
I didn't even mean to start playing this, Mike. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this game, and once I get a little bit of time in the next week or so, maybe I'll do some video of it. I mean, people know what it is, but, I'll remind people, yes, this is still a good game. Get it on your Switch. That's awesome. I booted it up, and I couldn't put it down. It's still so good. It's just so honkin' bananas from the very first second, and it doesn't let up, and it knows what it is, and it's fun, and colorful. It blitzes your eyes with nonstop action. And it works on the Switch. I was thinking at the very beginning, like, actually, there's too much stuff happening on this small screen. This is the game that maybe won't work on Switch. But ever since that very beginning, like, fight, I haven't felt that way anymore. Especially once you kind of remember, like, oh yeah, there's this lock on, and once you start remembering like what all the enemies look like, and they're so distinct that it really does work. So Yep, good game, still good. You heard it here first, Mike.
Yeah, I don't think I need to go back. I liked it. I don't know if it's the thing I need to go back to at this moment.
That's fair. I mean, I think people all have different favorite Platinum games, and I think that might be mine.
Yeah, you do not like Nier. You do not like Nier.
No, I don't. No,
but you
I don't.
like that one.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I mean, Bayonetta 2 is a million times better than Nier Automata. What are we talking about? A million.
A million gazillion.
Yes, a million gazillion billion. Mike, we should jump to the news now.
Sure.
Good.
Yeah, dude.
All right, we got a few big headlines here. I think we're just gonna go in order of how I put them in this list. First up is Shadow of the Colossus on PlayStation 4. That remake came out, and boys, it's selling. It topped the UK charts, and it outsold the PlayStation 2 launch by 73%. So, like, you match the two launches up, the PlayStation 2 version and this version. This one is just completely outdoing it. I think UK numbers are done by unit sales. So, this version costs $40. That old one cost $50. There's some disparity there, but $40 is still quite a bit of money, and I bet it still ended up making a lot more money than the original. So yeah, that's impressive. I mean, we've been seeing these remakes do really well, especially on PlayStation systems right now, and I do think a big part of that is the bulk of Sony's audience is just right in that sweet spot where they are coming out of college and they have a lot of disposable income. And they remember a lot of these games from when they were very young kids, and now they're going to get a chance to go back and experience them like the way they play games now. And that's why something like Crash Bandicoot does so well, and now this. We're going to just keep seeing these, aren't we? Like, Sony's going to like start looking around and be like, what can we do next?
Yeah, and they definitely have options, right? I mean, I know it's coming up, but there's the Spyro thing that's pretty heavily rumored.
We could just talk about that right now.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happening. I'm sure Eco's just going to get a similar treatment as at this point, right? And yeah, great, do it.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's totally fine. Yeah, and that is one of the other stories. Spyro Trilogy Remaster coming to PlayStation 4 this year. Again, that's a rumor, but that's going to happen. And the word there is that it's going to be exclusive to PlayStation 4 for a year, and then after that, it'll probably come to everything, the Switch included.
Yeah. I mean, because there's rumors now that like Crash Bandicoot's going to come to Switch stuff. I still think that's a mistake for them. It's weird.
They got those first year sales. I mean, Crash Bandicoot might hit the other stuff later. I mean, I see what you're saying, because if they want to keep that excitement of the PlayStation audience going for future Crash games, they would want to keep it exclusive, but I don't know, maybe Sony just didn't want to pay the full price for that. So
fools.
Yeah, idiots. Listen to Mike Minotti. That's what this show actually should be called.
I thought it was called that. You lied.
Loot box legislation has been introduced in the state of Hawaii. Mike, did you write about this? I think you were kind of like, or at least kind of.
No, I was looking at it.
I mean, I looked at it too. We can kind of go over like the basic things here. There's a bunch of bills that have been introduced. There's Senate Bill 3024. This would prohibit the sale of any game featuring a system wherein players can purchase a randomized reward using real money to anyone younger than 21 years old. There's another two bills. And these ones would require video game publishers to prominently label the game and say that it contains the randomized purchasing system. They would also have to disclose the probability rate of receiving each loot box reward. So, yeah, I mean, this stuff's I think it's gonna keep happening until things sort of sort out, or legislators get tired and get distracted and move on to something else. But I mean, do you think that? I guess first, do you think these bills make sense?
I don't know. No, I mean, I'm not a big fan of any of this sort of, people telling people what games to buy or can't. I understand that these things could be exploitive to minors. I still think it's an issue that can be kind of handled on a micro level, parents or in game systems or what have you. And I just don't like the government getting involved in this. And I think it's strange that some people seem to be applauding and cheering as they do. Like headlines like, oh, they're going to not allow, you to buy Hearthstone or buy a pack of cards Hearthstone unless you prove you're 18. Everyone's like, yay. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it skeeves me out a little bit, especially because like I do have memories of playing Magic the Gathering as a kid, and I would just be it'd be weird if someone came and took that away from me suddenly.
Right. Yeah, I know. Because yeah, I had the same thing with like Pokemon and all these things, and I understand some people are out of control, but that happens with almost everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, it just still seems like people are still kind of having this reaction to the EA Star Wars Battlefront 2 thing. It's so funny how that is all that game is going to be remembered for. Even before it came out, even once it out, and like that's the legacy now. Long afterwards, it's just all going to be this stuff about its loot boxes.
Yep, it will be remembered as the loot box game for sure. Uh, uh, it'll be interesting to see how EA tries to react to any of this, but I would imagine that these bills are going to face a lot of opposition from the ESRB or the ESA, as they say, actually, unless someone can prove how this is really hurting people, instead of just saying, oh, it's like gambling, which doesn't mean much. Like lots of things could be like gambling. I think you have to say it's like gambling, and here's how it actually hurts people in a documented sense. And so people could do that. And I saw some analysts on Twitter saying the similar things. This is all going to be First Amendment stuff. Like they're going to say, hey, we're actually just this system in our game is speech. Like it's a software system, but it is part of our artistic expression, and it's protected. And unless you can really prove a high bar of saying no, it's hurting people because it's gambling, and that's going to be a tough thing to prove. I do think it's probably going to be a lot of these things are going to be thrown out or overturned by higher courts. The Hawaiian Supreme Court or the actual U.S. Supreme Court. That said, is this stuff going to help? Probably not. I mean, it sounds like it's just going to like destroy the mobile gaming ecosystem completely.
Right. Yeah. The whole industry would be in bad news bears land.
I mean, I don't know if this is the exact language. I'm taking language from other places online. Like this one says it would prohibit the sale of any game featuring a system. So maybe you could give the game away for free.
Yeah, I got wording right.
Right, and then also maybe the idea that you can't purchase a randomized reward using real money. Okay, well, how about if I purchase a token? Can I purchase a token, and that token can be used to then buy a randomized reward? Like, are there loopholes here that are just going to be exploited immediately, and all these bills just don't make any sense and probably just, hold back things that are trying to be a little bit more transparent about how you're using your money? So, I don't know. You're right. I think your original sentiment about it's weird that the government's getting involved in this stuff and telling game developers how they can make games.
Especially when it seems to be starting to self-regulate itself just fine through the, obviously it's not going to go away, but I think, when it did cross the line with Battlefront 2, it kind of, was course corrected pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I get the threat of regulation from the people that are yelling the loudest. That is the stuff that gets companies to self-regulate and course correct. But yeah, it feels like a lot of people that still want that stuff are like, we don't care how they're going to regulate or course correct. We're going to ride this thing into the ground until we actually get some stuff on the books so they can never try this again. And I'm like, I think you'll regret that in the end. Or, maybe you'll just end up hurting other people that like different kinds of games than you. But yeah, we'll see. This story's not going to go anywhere. I'm sure we're going to be talking about this through for the rest of the year at the very least.
Oh yeah.
On this same topic, a senator asked the ESA's ESRB, the ratings board, to first they want them to go back and re-examine their decision or their determination about loot boxes and whether or not it's gambling. The ESRB said no, it's not. The senator also says they want the ESRB to increase game ratings for games that do have loot boxes. So it can't just be teen. It's got to be, I think, mature or so maybe adult.
Overwatch to become a mature game all of a sudden.
Right, exactly, yeah. Which does have some effect on how it's sold at certain stores, Walmart and things like that, which is a huge retailer for video games. ESRB is not a government organization. It is it exists as a thing to self-regulate. But when a senator starts asking, that comes with the implied threat of, again, government regulation. So we'll see how the ESRB reacts to this. And again, this is just something that's going to happen for the rest of the year.
Yep, more fun stuff.
Yep. Finally, THQ Nordic has acquired Koch Media, and Koch Media is the parent company of Deep Silver, which is the company that acquired
They don't make
Saint.
delicious sodas.
No, they do not, and they aren't the Koch brothers either. They acquired Saints Row and a couple other games from THQ when THQ went under, when they went bankrupt in like 2015, I think. THQ Nordic was just Nordic Games. They acquired the THQ name and then games like Darksiders and a bunch of other THQ stuff. And it sounds like they're trying to like really reestablish THQ as what it was. And what I imagine is any moment now, THQ Nordic's gonna be like, hey, we dropped Nordic, we're just THQ now. THQ Publishing.
Right, yeah, it's funny how THQ is like a back.
Yes, it's very...
There it is.
Yeah, I mean, do you does it mean anything to you that like this THQ Nordic is trying to like bring back Saints Row? Like,
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Sure. I mean, that Saint Row spinoff came out last year. Man, that couldn't have possibly made less of an impact.
Yeah, it really it failed. Like without a doubt. Like there's no other way to put it. It was a failure. And that's probably, I think we're looking at the effect of that cause of that game coming out and not really gathering many people, not getting people excited or anything like that. And now that they, that failure to recoup investment has maybe led Koch Media to say, hey, let's get out of this business. Let's sell off while we can. THQ Nordic's buying, let's sell. So I don't know. I like Saints Row games and I hope THQ Nordic knows what they're doing, but I just, they're making a Darksiders game, and we haven't seen that or anything really. So who knows?
Yeah, it just seems like, I don't know, especially Darksiders, man. Like some of these things are just so 2000s franchises or what have you. I can't imagine people being excited about Darksiders 3 or I don't. Maybe Saints Row 5 people would care about. I guess, but it's hard to see.
Yeah. Mike, I don't have any other news. Anything else from the past week you want to talk about?
It's been a little quiet, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah. I think we went through that January period, and it kind of got way more intense than I think a lot of people were expecting, at least more than I was. And now it feels like, okay, actually, this is the end of 2017 finally, and we're getting that breather that we were promised.
Things are actually calming down now, right, which is a little nice. But I'm sure it'll pick up. Then March, you have GDC and other things,
right,
so it's
exactly.
going to pick up again.
So yeah, we're gonna get into GDC. We get into like PAX East. Some big games are launching.
Did you see my retro beat this week about that
not yet.
Nintendo 64 game?
No, not yet. But I this is the one that like the first Nintendo new Nintendo 64 game in like 20 years or some shit.
Right, like 15 since they discontinued it in 2003. And it's funny because it's a game that came out. It's called 40 Winks. It just was supposed to come out for PlayStation and Nintendo 64, and it only came out for PlayStation. And like these guys are now just releasing that Nintendo 64 version. It's like not supposed to be a great game, but it's like a new game for the Nintendo 64. So why not?
Yeah, well, like, did they explain their motivation? They're just like, we did this because
this company does this sort of thing. They've done Genesis, Super Nintendo things like this. Games that were maybe only in one region. Like they have some Chinese Genesis game that they made English carts for, or like the games that were like canceled and they get the code for and they make the carts for them. I mean, it's not like the stuff is licensed by Nintendo, right? You're not getting that Nintendo seal of quality, but I mean, they send you a cart, it's in a box, so you can put it in your system and play it.
Yeah, I always wonder like if there's a way like to make a living or like make a business like selling old games. Selling like actual physical old games that work on old hardware, or selling new games made for those old systems. Because it seems like maybe there would be a market for that stuff, but at this point,
there's a small market,
right?
It's a thing, but it's not very big.
Yeah, it just seems like if you're going to do that, though, why not just make it a downloadable game that's on Steam,
right? And even this 40 Winks thing, while they're doing this, they're gonna go ahead and like release a digital version for Steam, right? So
exactly. So yeah, I really like this idea. I think that concept is super fascinating, but even I would probably just play the digital version because it would just be so much more convenient.
See, I would go ahead and play the Nintendo 64 version because I already have my stuff ready to go, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and it's actually that's what I was thinking. Like now that I got the Super NT, if a new Super Nintendo game came out, I actually would do that. So I'm wondering if there's maybe like a collaboration between these clone console makers and these people working with old hardware to make new software, if there's something that could be done there. Like, I think someone made a Netflix that would work on the NES, and if someone sold that cartridge, I would buy it instantly. I would totally get that, because I would just want to mess around with that, but, you know, that's a really weird custom thing, and that cartridge would probably cost $300 or something like that, so... But I don't know.
If you want to learn more about it, read this week's RetroBeat on GamesBeat.com.
Yep, and I think that's going to do it for us this week. Quick episode, but you know, it felt pretty good. It felt like we packed a lot of info in there. And we will be back next week with even more. In the meantime, Mike, why don't you tell the people where they can find you?
You can find me on GamesBeat.com. I'm on Twitter at Tolkoto. That's TOLKOTO. I also do the Exploding Barrel podcast with my brother. That's at ebpodcast.com. Our last episode, we talked about our recent trip to Disney World and all the new things we saw and all the places we ate and stuff we did. So, you know, if you're a Disney fan like me, check that out.
Did that episode go up yet? I feel like
I think it did. I think it went up today, yeah.
Okay, it went up today. All right, awesome. Because I haven't checked my podcast feed in a little bit. I was interested to hear more about that stuff. Because it's one of those things, you know, now that I have a family, me and Steph keep talking about, hey, we should actually start thinking about really doing that. And I keep reading about that Star Wars hotel, and they keep teasing it, and they say it's going to happen in 2019, and boy, does that just sound like my jam.
Well, now you two can listen to our podcast during your next sexy times, like I know you already do.
Oh, yeah, we already do that, totally. It's the only thing that gets us in the mood anymore. We really screwed up. That Pavlovian response is real shit. I am Jeff Grubb on Twitter. YouTube.com/Jeffrey Grubb, and then Twitch.tv/Jeff Grubb. I've been trying to stream a lot more on Twitch, especially like when I have like games just to cover. I'm gonna stream them at the same time. So I did Descenders on there, and I played Age of Empires, and I have been playing around with the Logitech wheel a lot more. Like I got your American Truck Simulator during this Lunar New Year event sale on Steam for like $5, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good time, and I played that, did a couple runs of that. So yeah, check that out. I'm usually on pretty late at night because, again, new dad stuff, but you know, check that out. Usually you can follow and you'll get a notification. Other than that though, I think that's going to wrap us up for this week. We'll be back again with new information for your ear holes and the visuals of me and Mike sitting next to each other on the internet. Yeah, until then.
That is literally what happens.
That's, yeah, I'm very literal when I describe things. All right, everybody, I'm hitting the end button. See you guys then. Bye. All right, cool. Thanks, Mike. I'll let you go.
Alrighty, yeah, I think I'm gonna go do a little gymming.